So because Shinrin Yoku, or forest bathing, is our cultural feature, it's also our inspiration for today. In the last 2 months, we've done a little element or talked about the 3 friends of winter. And of course, we're waiting for spring to come, and it'll be here soon. But bamboo is the 3rd friend of winter. The first one was pine, then we did plum, and then this is an ode to the bamboo. Now, this is not bamboo. This looks like bamboo, but it is actually river cane. And river cane is so much easier to cut. It really does look like bamboo, but it's easy to cut with your flower cutters, and it works for our design for today. So what we're going to create with 4 3.5-foot river canes is we're going to take 2 of them, and we're going to measure 2 times the width and 2 times the height of your container, and that's going to give you your heaven line. And it's probably going to be close to this size, like this. Then you're going to take some little, now I have brown paper covered wire, but you can use any floral wire. The brown paper covered wire is nice because it just doesn't show up as well. And we're going to cut it in 3 pieces, and then we're just going to twist tie it to hold it in place, hold the 2 in place. Now, if you use paper covered wire, be careful not to get your hands wet, because the paper on the wire is very fragile, and if you get it wet, it'll just disintegrate. So use your towels on your table to keep your hands dry, and then just wire them. You can place them in both sides of your kenzon, and you're going to spread your kenzons apart as far as they'll go in your container, because we're going to create a landscape form to look like we're going to walk in the woods in early spring. Now, once you get your heaven line in, or your tie, then you'll have 2 additional thinner pieces, or 2 additional other pieces of your river cane, and you're going to just visually put your fingers on it and say, okay, I'm going to use, one is going to be 2/3 and one is going to be 1/3. So you're going to cut it right here, and you're going to use these 2 as the pieces in the back for depth, to give depth and perspective. And you're going to use the other 2 in the front, and that's going to be your man line, or your yo. So tie and yo, and this is just in the back placement to give depth for today. Once you have all of your river cane in, because it looks like the trees have fallen during the winter and just kind of interlocked or intertwined and created kind of a cathedral for you to walk through or move through. And this is where all the plants are going to come up. So our ingredients for today are Italian ruscus. Now, the ruscus is going to be rather bushy and have lots of leaves, but what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to very carefully take off a lot of the foliage. I've taken off several little pieces here and stripped off a lot of all of the leaves that are low, so that nothing is touching the bowl, the side of the bowl, or the water. And I placed in the tallest piece of Italian ruscus to come at the halfway point in our design. And whatever direction you decide you want it to go, whether it's left facing, right facing, or even at an angle more out to the front. This one, the sun, if you can imagine a light source being here, it looks like everything is kind of growing towards that light. So everything you put in, you kind of want to grow towards the light, wherever you discern that light is going to be. Then you take your extra little pieces of Italian ruscus, and you just add them in wherever you like on both sides of your kenzon. Then we have Dendrobium orchids, and Oncidium orchids, and they are small and beautiful. And the reason I chose Oncidium orchids is because in wildflowers, especially in Ohio, there are many types of flowers that look like little orchids, just like this. They don't grow quite like this, and sometimes they'll have enormous greens and stems and just one little flower like this growing at the end. So this is a little bit more flower than you get in the forest, but it's representative of the orchid type flowers that you'll find in the wild in Ohio. Then also there's always lots of little asters. So you'll get 3 stems of little Monte Cassino purple asters, and you are going to very carefully take off all the little leaves. So this is going to be a calming thing to do. You're just going to strip off all the leaves. It's like, think of doing this as arranging or creating a recipe, like something you're going to make in a wok or in a bowl, and you're going to quickly stir fry it later, but you want to get all your ingredients together first, and then the arrangement goes together very quickly. So first the ruscus, then the Oncidium orchid, and you want that to be more like a quarter of the height of your ruscus. So it's going to be down here. Then these little asters, again, you pluck off all the leaves, the additional leaves, and put them in little groupings on both sides in your Kenzon. Then you're going to take your solidago and you're going to do the same leaf stripping technique on the solidago, because in a few days the solidago leaves will all dry up and shrivel and won't look very good. But this part will naturally dry right in your arrangement. So it will look great and be dried like that for a long time. And finally, you're going to use the Gaelix leaves. Now the Gaelix leaves are nice. I want to be sure that there's several leaves in the forest that kind of round and flat, and they kind of grow in a plane like this. So they're not growing up like this, they're growing this way so they can get the most light, right, from the sun. So you want to be sure to put them in so they kind of anchor each arrangement on each side, and kind of pull it in and highlight the stems where the river cane comes together. So once you've got that together, you can imagine a beautiful forest in the spring of wildflowers. Yes, but not until you take what you can do to make it work today. You can stack up some of these. All right, ladies, well, welcome to our March Moto Ikebana lesson. Today we are going to talk about the cultural feature of Shinrin Yoku. And Shinrin is the word for forest, and Yoku is the word for shower or bathing. And so putting it together, it means forest bathing. Now this was developed in Japan in the 1980s, and the terminology was coined Shinrin Yoku. And it's been studied by scientists and doctors in both the art and science of how trees and nature can improve our health and our well-being. And don't we need that today? This particular doctor, his name is King Lee, and you'll notice his name is not Japanese but Chinese, but he lives in Tokyo. He's a professor of the University of Tokyo, and he actually teaches people in the medical profession. And actually takes them out. People who are in the medical profession are quite stressed, and they need to be out in the forest. And so doctors in Japan now prescribe for people who are especially stressed with their job or their life. They write a prescription for you to actually go to the forest. Wow. And so it's really amazing, but I highly recommend his book. In his book, he has a little section here on Ikebana, which I thought was fascinating, because you can bring Ikebana, the art of Japanese flower arranging, into your home and still get a little bit of the nature inside your house to help to heal and minister to you. So he has, this is a great book. I highly recommend it. I got it and I read it in less than a day. It was very easy read and very well done. And I thank Dr. Lee for putting this book out in English, because I just think it's a great thing. He has discovered scientifically that forest bathing, walking in the woods, eases stress, worry, and anxiety, gives us energy and vitality. It refreshes and restores both our mood and rejuvenates us. And it helps us to think more clearly. So if you have a problem or a relationship issue or something going on in your life, just take a walk in the woods. and be quiet. One thing is required when you go, you are untethered, which means no technology, no phone, no camera, no devices. You simply walk in the forest and be quiet. That's another prerequisite. But it does help stir creativity as well, so it's just a great thing. There's a word in Japanese, I don't think I'm pronouncing it quite correctly, but it's spelled Y-U-G-E-N, and I think it's pronounced Yugen. It's a feeling too deep for words. We don't have an English word with that translation at all. It means a profound sense of beauty and mystery of the universe and creation. There was a Japanese playwright, Xiaomi Motokiyo, and he describes Yugen as the subtle shadows of bamboo on bamboo, or when you watch the sun sink behind a flower-clad hill, or when you wander in a huge forest without thought of return. So he likes to talk about the fact that the forest bathing helps all of our senses. So, of course, it helps your sound, your hearing, because you're quiet and you can hear the birds sing, you can hear the water trickling in the stream, you can hear the wind blow through the trees. Then your eyes are affected, your vision, because you see the light coming down. You see all of the foliage and the plants and the trees and just everything around. Then you use your olfactory, your sight, your smell, and that is you can smell the trees literally and breathe in the microbes, because we need our microbiome to have all of these microbes to heal and to better our own terrain in our body. So I'm sure you're aware that aromatherapy has become hugely popular, and actually it's a scientifically studied science. And so in Dr. Lee's book, he mentions that the oil of cypress is one of the most the best oils he finds, and a lot of men really like this smell of cypress. And my neighbor, Melissa, who's one of our students here, thank you, Melissa, she actually gave me this cypress oil to not put rub on, but to just give a smell, give a sniff of this cypress, because it's very healing. And then Dr. Lee also says that pine is also very, very healing. And this is a blend that Melissa made of pine and some other things. And I'm going to pass both of these around in class, but I'm going to spray this actually on my arm. If you don't want to spray it on your arm, this is good for on your skin. It's okay, it's been diluted. And if you don't want to put it on your skin, you can just spray it in the air and take a whiff, because it's just delightful. So the sense of smell is also very important. Touch is another sense that's really important walking through the woods. Touching the bark, touching the moss, touching the smooth stones in the woods. And if you're able and you feel comfortable doing this, you can take off your shoes and walk for a little bit on the ground, because there are the Earth's electrons help to really stimulate and encourage us. So touch is important. And of course, taste. Now, we're not going to eat necessarily the things in the woods, but you can if you know what you're doing. And I caution you, if you know what you're doing, you can snap off some twigs and some leaves and some bark and actually make different kinds of tea that you could enjoy. But don't do it if you're not familiar with what, like let's say poison ivy is, so you want to be cautious. But I'm sure you've all experienced after a rain, you can actually taste in the air, the rain in the air. And so taste is important. But there's a sixth sense that we all feel, and that is, it feeds our souls and it brings us joy. Nature can both take our breath away and yet breathe new life into us. And that is amazing. Dr. Lee also said that if you're out in the woods for 4 hours, you get as much benefit that will last you for 30 days. And if you're in a hotel room or your house and you can't get out, these essential oils in a diffuser can help you as much as 50%. But the videographer, and I highly recommend you get online and look up the video that is 19 minutes and 23 seconds long. It's by the videographer Kirsten Dirksen. And watch Dr. Lee at the end of the video because she asks him, so can man artificially manufacture a forest? And he very wisely says, it is impossible because only God can make a forest. He doesn't say that, I said that, but I feel he understands that. So enjoy experiencing Shin Rin Yoku.